Chris, you are a part owner of Render Judgment going in the Derby now.
Correct.
Through Dream Walkin, and just talk about your background with Dream Walkin.
Okay, so Dream Walkin, that's Toby Keith and his family. And it's a partnership we did about 2 years ago. We started buying horses together. And we bought, in this yearling crop, we probably bought about in the low 20s. And he was nice enough to partner with me, and so far we've been trying to get there a little bit. And this horse is going to be our first probably prominent horse, and we got a couple others that are hopefully on their way back.
And he was in the first group of the 20, this horse.
Yes, he
Render
was.
Judgment. Yeah. Toby's family still continuing on
Yes,
in horse
yes,
racing?
yep. They fly in here Friday, and they're very, very excited to try to get this going.
What's it like? With his passing, and it's so sad. And he's never had a horse in the Derby before, to my knowledge.
No, I don't believe so.
And
no, he's just a guy that he really loved this game. His family told me he loved the horses as much as he loved the music. That's a pretty big statement. And just a great guy, and just glad to see us get a horse that can try to compete at this level.
How did you get to know him? Are you from Oklahoma?
Yes, and we have mares for him and stuff. And about 2 years ago, he called me up and said, "Let's try to go buy some race horses together." So that's when we branched out from the mares and just go ahead and try to buy yearlings instead.
What you liked about Render Judgment as a yearling?
I just had a lot of strength about him for his pedigree. His pedigree is very two-turn, but he had a lot of shape to him. That told me he should have some early speed, and as we all know, you had to have a little speed to get lucky.
So you had track fan him that you raised,
right.
But this is a little different.
Yeah, because this is when we bought it, and we actually own this one as opposed to, because our primary business is we raise horses to sell.
So Kenny had talked about, there was an allowance race you all could have gone in, and
that's correct, and that was a thought. We thought about doing that, but Toby's wife decided, this was his dream, and she asked if we could do this. I said, I'm not going to tell you no, so I guess we're going to go.
So this one's for Toby?
No, 100%. 100% right.
Make a case for Render Judgment. How does Render Judgment?
The past 2 weeks he's been very good here. His last work he went 59 flat and kept going out. You can't do any better than that. We've had a little setback with a quarter crack, and that obviously interrupted his training. We missed a race, so we might be a little behind on our fitness, but I think he's getting there. He lost bluegrass by 4 seconds, by 4 lengths. That's basically about a second. So he needs to improve by about that much, and I think there's a possibility he could.
What would Toby think about this?
He'd be over the moon. There'd be no sleeping here, that's all I can tell you. We'd be up all night and do it again all day.
A year and a half or so ago at Fasig-Tipton in July, Kenny and Chris got together to buy this colt, and along with Toby Keith. And then, since Toby passed away a year or so ago, it's been kind of a dream that'd be nice to get to the Derby for Toby with this colt, and it looks like it's finally happening. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, but you didn't really know until just before about the time entries were closing that you were going to be able to get in the body of the race with this horse.
Right. Well, we went ahead and entered him. Ben Huffman came by Saturday morning, and we made the decision, thinking we were 21, to go ahead and enter. That maybe somebody will scratch during the week. Then we all went over to Wagner's and had some breakfast, and Ben called Kenny as we were walking out of Wagner's Saturday morning and said, "Tapping Street's out, you're in."
He had a great work. He's a nice horse, but he's going to have to do some improvement too.
Yes, he is. He's had some issues through the winter, and I think those issues are now getting behind him. He ran a good race down at Virginia. That was his best race year to date, and I think he ran a good race at down at Keeneland in the bluegrass. Those are now his best numbers, and if he can improve off of those 2 races come Saturday evening, we'll see. You never know. It's a 20-horse field, probably, and anything can happen.
Did you get to know Toby before he passed?
I did not. I didn't have the pleasure. So.
Do y'all feel like you maybe have a little angel on your wings?
I'm hoping it's going to bring us good luck. That's why a couple months ago I suggested, instead of flip-flopping on the silks, that we just keep running Render Judgment under Toby's silks for however long Render's going to run. And And I'm hopeful that that's going to kind of a little memory of Toby, but also bring us a little bit of good luck. We'll see. 21 a week out, and even though we paid the money on Friday to get him into the Derby, the big difference was the way he worked Saturday morning. Julian was on him, said he did that 59 flat very, very easy, well in hand. He worked with another one of Kenny's horses, Hypnus, which is a very, very good colt, especially in the morning, who is now going to run in that allowance race Saturday in the third race. But that work was very good. That was his best work he's ever had on Saturday morning. So we decided we'll go ahead and enter him as number 21, but luckily we ended up as 20.
I mean, what kind of confidence do you have going in? Do you just feel like he's going to run a good race, and wherever that puts him, that puts him?
I do. He's like Rattle and Roll is a deep closer. Rattle and Roll's always last, and it's just a question of whether he can pass. How many horses can he pass to before he gets to the finish line. And Rendered Judgment is got a little bit more speed than Rattle. I think he can lay mid-pack. This Derby, it's kind of looking like there's a lot of speed horses in this race, and there's a lot of deep closers. So hopefully somewhere in the middle, a spot will open up that Julia can get him in and save a little ground going around the turn, and make a good run coming up the lane. We'll see.
So how did this partnership come together? Because it's about 4 or 5 entities that are in on Rendered Judgment.
Yeah, Kenny and I were at Fasig-Tipton sale, and we had picked this Blaine colt out, and it was going to be another hour or two before he went through the ring, and he said, "Hey, I want you to meet somebody," and he introduced me to Chris Baccari, and Chris said, "We're looking at this Blaine colt too. Would you want to partner with?" And I said, "Well, who all am I partnered with?" He said, "Toby Keith." And I said, "Well, that'd be fine, but let me ask one question. If we're fortunate enough to get into a race and go to the winner's circle, and Toby's in town and I'm in town, will he have a drink with me afterwards to celebrate?" And Chris said, "I'll have at least one, and probably a whole lot more." And I said, "I'm in."
As long as it's in a red Solo cup, huh?
Yeah. And so we bought the horse, and then back in November, I think, Brooke Smith was talking with Kenny, and Brooke wanted to be part of the group, so we sold a piece to Brooke.
Story about how the horse was named.
When we bought the horse, Chris said Toby wanted to name the horse. I said, "That's fine." And unfortunately, he passed away before he named the horse. And as time went on, Kenny and I were talking, and it was kind of like, well, we got to come up with a name. And how long do you wait to press the family about naming a horse after losing them? Wasn't necessarily appropriate. We just didn't, it's a minor little thing, and they had their own issues. So one day, the horse was getting ready to come up, needed to get the chip put in. We had to have a name. So Kenny was driving from Oklahoman over to Fairgrounds, and we just started going through names. I was at my office on the Jockey Club registry, and one of us would throw out a name. I'd look to see if it was taken, and I don't remember if it was Kenny or me that came up with the name of Rendered Judgment, and that's how he got named.
It's a great name. He's by Blaine. So it fits, and it's just a classy name, Rendered Judgment.
We were going through, fault, anything because of the blame, fault, trial, lawyers, whatever, all that stuff. And I don't remember, either Kenny said it or I said it. As far as Rendered Judgment, I looked it up, it wasn't taken. Kenny said, "Well, take it. That's his name."